Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Blender tutorial series. In today's episode we will be going over how to move the camera, how to add and delete objects, how to move, rotate and scale objects, and how to edit objects to build your own meshes. We will be going over how to do it, and then at the end we will have a go and build a simple table using edit mode, and moving, scaling and rotating vertices. If you haven't watched the last episode, I would highly recommend you go watch that, because it will have useful information of all of Blender, and we will be using some of the things that I talked about in that episode in the next few. So if you haven't, go watch it and come back to this video when you're ready. The link will be in the description. To start this episode off, I will show you all how to move the camera, as this is needed to do any sort of modeling. So that'll involve showing you how to do this rotating movement, this panning and scaling. So Blender is a bit different to most things in terms of camera movement. So you're going to get the middle mouse button and press it in, and then dragging around will rotate the camera like this. To pan, you're going to do the exact same thing, pressing it in and dragging, but just while holding shift as well. That'll pan around, so you can, this is how you're going to do most of your movement. And then zooming in and out, as you can guess, is just scrolling with the mouse wheel. You can also, one of the things that you'll be using a lot, if you select, which for me is right mouse button, select any object, you will want to press the full stop key on your number pad, and that will focus in on the object you have selected and set it as the center. So you could do that with any of these, or select multiple and do that. But yeah, I guess, now that I've shown you how to move your camera, let's move on to how to select objects, which I have mentioned. It's just, for me, right mouse button, but you would have selected it at the start, so just hover over the item and you want, and click on it. So I guess that's two of the things done. Let's talk about how to add and delete objects. So to start off, how to delete, you press X and then click on the delete thing, or X and enter, or just X twice, I think. Yeah, maybe not. But then to add in objects, where the 3D cursor is, that's where your object's going to get added, and you place that by pressing the whatever mouse button you have that's not assigned to selecting. So you'll put that where you want it, hold shift and press A at the same time, and then you'll come up with this menu. Here you can add in meshes, which are the main thing you'll be using for modeling. You can do curves, which is good for getting things to track a path. A surface, them we don't use because that's based on mathematical things, but it also means you can't edit them much. So if you just want a perfect sphere, you would use that, but only for those. Metaballs, I guess I'll give an example of what they are. Things that will connect like that do really weird stuff. They're fun to mess around with. But yeah, there's text, this is for 2D stuff, bones, editing objects, and yeah, a bunch of other stuff. So let's just start off. Let's add a cube. Yeah, just add as many as you want, delete some, do whatever you want with them, just get used to the buttons, because you'll be doing it quite a lot. And that's how to add and delete objects. So now I guess let's move on to, well, moving them around. So there's several ways that you can do this. You can either, with the toolbar up the side here, turn on, like, I guess turn on this, and then dragging the arrows will move it along the axis. Dragging these will rotate, or just along the certain ones, and dragging these will scale. But we will probably not be using them. Instead, if you press G on your keyboard, that will grab it and move it to wherever your mouse is, and you'll wanna, so that's how we're going to be moving objects most of the time. If you do that, you want it to move across the x-axis, you press X on the keyboard, it'll only move on that one. If you want it to go on the Y, you press Y. If you want it to go on the Z, you press Z. So it will be G and then whatever axis you want, or just G and move it around freely. So that's how you're going to move. For what should we do next? Let's do rotating. So instead of G, which is for grab, just going to press R instead. That'll rotate it. You can do it across certain axes by pressing the key. Again, similar to moving. You can also, if you press R twice, it's sort of like free rotating. If you just do it once, it'll only be based on your camera angle. So keep that in mind. You can also do scaling, again pressing S. Just for scale, you can do that. You can press X, the axes. So yeah, it's all just pressing X, not X, pressing G, R or S, and then choosing the axis you want, or doing it in all directions. So that's how to transform objects. Alright, so let's move on to building a simple table as something that you can all relate to, because you should all know what a table will look like. So let's click on File, go to a New and General, and don't need to save this, and now you've got a new scene. So we're going to want to delete the basic default cube. Now we've got an empty scene with the 3D cursor right in the middle. I'm going to press Shift and A to add in an object. And so I'm going to do two of them to demonstrate two different types. I'm going to do a square one, and I'll move this to the side by pressing G, Y, and moving it there. And I will also do a circle one, and I'll press G, Y, and move it here. So the way we're going to edit these is, as I mentioned in the last episode, there is the modeling tab. And that will affect the item you have selected, but you can also edit that by pressing the tab, and that will open up the edit mode, just without the modeling tab. So I just use the tab key. You can go into modeling and do whatever you want. So let's start off with this one, as it will most likely be simpler. So you press tab to go into edit mode. All of these little points on the edges, like the black dots, they are your different vertices. Moving them around, say if I move it to there, tab out of edit mode, it'll be a new shape. So now, we're going to make a basic table. So, oh yeah, by the way, if you press A, that will select all of the vertices. If you press Alt and A, that will deselect all. So we're going to press A to select every vertice. And then, let's press E, and it will default lock it to the Z axis, but you can also do it to X or Y, but we want it on the Z, so you can just leave it like that. And what E will do, that will extrude vertices. So that's pretty much duplicating all of the vertices, moving it to wherever you want, or duplicating the vertex you have selected, moving it to where you want, and then making a bridge between them. So you'll extrude that and move it down slightly, and as you can see, you've got something with a bit of thickness. Now, because we're going to do it simple, I'm not going to go into making edge loops just yet. We'll do this as easy as possible. So you're going to rotate the camera around to the bottom, place the 3D cursor there, Shift A, and add another cube. Now, let's press S to scale, and scale it down. At the moment we're making the legs. So now, if you do just GX, GY, if you press G and then Shift and then one of the axes, that will leave out the one you pressed. So if I do G-Shift-Z, it'll leave out the Z-axis. So then I can position it like that. Now we're going to select these 4 vertices, G and Z, Z, and then move it down, and you can either click or press enter to confirm. So now I've got the starts of a table, a flat plane and a leg. So what we can do, we could either add another cube, or we could do something simpler. Like if you let's explain how to do wireframe view. So if you press Z, it'll come up with these. The default view is on solid, which is what we're looking at now. You can also look at material previews, which will just show what materials you have loaded. At the moment we don't have any. You could do rendered, and the lights will affect shadows and everything. As you can see, there's shadow there. Or you could do wireframe, which only shows the vertices. So we're going to put it on wireframe view, which will let us select these 4, and these 4 down here, and then we can set it back to solid. So now we've got all of these parts selected without these. To duplicate, because we don't want to extrude it, because that would make a bridge between the two, we're going to press Shift and D, and that will duplicate everything we have selected. Then we can do what we did before, press Y, and move it across to where we want, and there we go, we have 2. Because this is already selected, we can do it again, Shift D, X, move it over to here. We've got 3 out of 4 legs, and you're going to do it again, Shift D and Y, and move it to there. So you're going to press Tab to get out of edit mode, and here is your basic table. So yeah, this will be your first sort of objects you've made in Blender. You could also, instead of positioning them like this, you could do something like this, so it's thinner, but yeah, the way I did that I'll explain in a later video. So now let's do it. It'll be a similar idea, but I'll show you one of the different keys that you'll need to be using. So you want to select 2 vertices that are in line with each other, like this. And we're going to start using the fill tool. So if you press F for fill, it will create an edge between the 2 vertices you had selected. I'm going to do that with 2 next to it. Press F again, and then if we select these 4 and press F, it's going to create a face. So we can do that all the way along here, just creating edges and faces until we have this thing filled in. And it doesn't have to be 4, it could be any amount, so you could do that even. You could even select all of these vertices at the start and press F, but that'll give you some weird results if you don't do it right, so we're going to stick with this method. Alright, so now you've got your filled in circle. You're going to do the same thing we did over there. Tab in, press A to select everything, press E and it'll be defaulted on the Z axis, and you'll move it down. Now we've got a disk. So all of these bottom vertices are already selected, but so we can press Alt and A to deselect them, and you want to place your 3D cursor on the bottom. Now press Shift and A, and this time we're adding in a cylinder. We could have done that in the first place for the thing I just realized, but we've done it with a circle. Good practice. So you're going to scale it down like this, then G and Z and move it down. Now you can select all the way around with all of these. Just get them all selected until the face is selected. Alright, so that's all selected. Now you can press G and Z and move it down, and you've got something like this. But we want little feet for our table so that it won't fall over. So what we're going to do, we're going to extrude down to about there to add an extra thing. Then we can scale up and it'll add a little feet thing. So there you go. That is two very simple, very basic meshes that you've chucked together quickly. In today's episode we've gone over how to edit basic meshes, add and delete basic objects. We've also gone over camera movement and scaling, rotating and grabbing. So in the next episode we're going to go over just basic materials, texturing, and we're also going to talk about rendering, which is how you get a good final image. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll hopefully have the next episode out soon. And yeah, keep learning Blender. If you have any questions for me, any suggestions for tutorials, leave them in the comments. And thanks for watching. And just quickly, I forgot to add, you're going to want to save this file so that we can keep working on it in the next episode. So normally you would be able to press Ctrl and S. Oh, looks like they fixed it in Blender 2.8. Alright. So yeah, just Ctrl and S or File and Save. And then you want to choose where you save your thing, give it a name. So by the end of this tutorial series, I'm going to work on making an entire room just step by step. So let's call this Blender room.blend and save Blender file. So yeah, that's how you save. Don't forget to save all the time, because Blender always crashes.